Yes, thank you so much. We will please be seated if you'd like. We hear another short presentation of Christian Drobe. He's a studied art historian. And I don't know if you will speak in English or in German.
I think so, yeah.
Yes,
in English.
Yeah, that's so. Then it's this time it will be convenient for the English speaking persons. He's an art historian. He studied German literature and history at the Martin Luther University in Halle-Wittenberg, so he's actually an Hallensian person. He did a dissertation on verdächtige Ambivalenzen, Klassizismus der Moderne 1920 bis 1960. Very interesting. He's currently curator of the exhibition Nach den Maschinen, Industriefotografie aus Sachsen-Anhalt, which we will be able to visit tomorrow, and he will, as a curator, give us a tour. Please refer to the program. You will see which of the 3 tours tomorrow it will be and at which time it will start. Well, just one more note from his previous work. He worked years long, at the Masaryk University in Brno in Czech Republic on another very interesting project. It was called Continuity and Rupture, Art and Architecture in Central Europe from 1918 to 1939. So from your dissertation to now you were working on this topic in a broader realm and understanding, and I look very forward to your introduction to the exhibition and your contribution to give us a little bit of wider perspective of the transformation taking place in Halle and the region. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for the kind introduction, Robert, and thank you for Helena and Robert to actually introduce me and invite me to the conference and be part of the whole business. So I now have the special honor to sit here on the couch as a curator of an exhibition that you will see tomorrow and introduce you to a few topics. And I hope you can follow along well. As you can see from my first slide, we are good academics, so I try to implement some kind of argument or thesis so that you can talk a little bit about the transformation and also connect the topics of photography to our conference here. So next slide, please. As you can see, those are the 2 posters and also the cover of the upcoming exhibition catalog. Our exhibition is called After the Machines, Industrial Photography in Saxony-Anhalt, and it covers roughly 100 years of photography in our region. So it's only depicting and showing images from Saxony-Anhalt and also mostly from photographers who are from this region. So this was funded by the state, and as you know, the Minister of Culture, Rainer Robra, is now putting a huge emphasis on industry heritage in Saxony-Anhalt and is trying to promote all kinds of projects in the state, and this was one of them, and we received funding roughly 9 months ago, so you can imagine I had a very stressful summer preparing the whole exhibition, and you can also see by the covers, the left-hand image is by a GDR photographer called Wolfgang G. Schröter, who was born, I think not in Halle, but close by, and died here in 2012. And this is his image, a sort of collage, color experiment image of what we know as Filmfabrik Wolfen, the film factory in Wolfen, which produced the Orwo celluloid films and exported them on the Eastern Bloc in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And on the right-hand side, you obviously see Ferropolis, which is another pillar of industry heritage in Saxony-Anhalt. So this gives you a rough idea what we are trying to do. We don't want to show the black and white images of GDR times, but actually want to show a whole range of photography in Saxony-Anhalt and all kind of aesthetically pleasing documentary aspects and all kinds of shades and facets. Next image. Next slide, please. This is where we meet tomorrow, actually, in front of the door. This is, in German, it's called Großsiederhalle. It's a large boiling hall. And the Saline, the salt works, you could call them in English, was renovated the last 4 years, as many, or some of you might know, and is now being reopened over the next year and a half, and they will have a new permanent exhibition there in the large boiling hall. What you can see here on the left is White Cube, was one of our ideas to show some pillars of industry heritage in Saxony-Anhalt, and this one is the power plant for Rode, which was quite an important site of transformation close by in Harald Kegler. We will talk about a little bit about the industrielles Gartenreich. I don't know how to translate that to English, industry, garden, estate, or something like that. And so what we were trying to do is give both perspective. We wanted to show and highlight meaningful places of industry heritage in Saxony-Anhalt, and also show a range of aesthetically pleasing or advanced positions from photographers from the region. Next slide, please. I don't want to give the tour today, but just as a quick kind of, so that you can catch the atmosphere of the rooms and the exhibition. You can see there are lots of wooden beams in these boiling halls, and it quite fits the whole atmosphere of industry heritage, I think, very, very nicely. And you can see these larger images in these light boxes. They indicate certain areas, they indicate certain time frames, and obviously we wanted to give a certain overview about the historical development of photography in Saxony-Anhalt. So the exhibition is divided into 4 parts. It starts in the 1920s, it goes through the GDR times, and then there's a huge emphasis on the period of transformation, as we call it today, the reunification years, which I think is the most important part of history of photography concerning industry and industry complexes. And so we will go through tomorrow through these sections here, and I will explain a little bit, not everything, and you can go around and have a look at the details and all the different photographers. Next slide, please. To go into a bit more detail and show you some of the arguments and some of the sort of angles we tried to catch as the curators and as the kind of preparations of the exhibitions went along. This is a page of our catalog. This is showing the, well, many might know him, Gerald Große, who was the photographer of the building of Halle-Neustadt 60 years ago, and he went along and took a lot of photos. And you can see on the upper right side, there is a very famous photo of his, almost like if snow is coming down. It's like very gray, and a certain style of this, well, industrialized building method, actually. And so 4 minutes I have left. That's good. But what we were trying to show and highlight in our exhibition, Gerald Große was very much aware that Halle-Neustadt was a city complex built for the industrial workers from Brno and Leuna. So the other 2 images we show here on the slide are just images from the surroundings, from Leuna. So not only did Gerald Große took photographs from Halle-Neustadt, but he was aware of the industrialization and these industrial complexes that were built in the surroundings. Next slide, please. So, and to sort of give these angles and topics and themes of industry and city building a little spin and some argument. This is de Krö, one of our photographers in the exhibition. And in 1991, he's from Western Germany. He came over from Western Germany and started a sort of project photographing all Kombinate, all companies in Eastern Germany. And this is one of his series regarding Leuna. And what he did here was not only taking photographs of the factories, the power plants, and all the facilities, but he also took photos from, the office rooms, the hallways, and also from the garden city around Leuna and the housing complexes around Leuna. And this is one image I picked for the presentation today. And obviously, in Leuna, you had a photograph of a Halle-Neustadt building in the hallway, so that you would actually, as a worker, connect to where you're living, whether you're proud of that or not, but it was there. So that was his angle, and Dirk Krö is a very active photographer, still going on today, and highly recommend his website and the series Kombinate to see his photos. Next slide, please. I don't know how many minutes I have still. I just want to make a sort of connection in my head. I'm an art historian. I'm no urban planner. I don't think in such ways, but I do think going through all our material, and you will see the material tomorrow in the exhibition, we can start thinking about urbanism and the role photography would play when looking at urban development, urban planning, and architecture in the city. And I think I maybe looked through 20, 30,000 photographs during the summer. There are some very kind of striking images you can see, and I would argue that photography is creating a certain image that we then communicate at conferences and write down in books and papers and articles. And I just put some more recent publications on the slide to give you an idea of how I'm trying to connect these things. Next slide, please. And I don't know if I have to close off already, but I would kind of highlight one more position, a contemporary photographer from Halle. This is on the right-hand side, Stefanie Kiewicz. She's the current professor for photography at the Kunsthochschule Burg Giebichenstein, the art college here. And Stefanie Kiewicz published this volume on the right side, just called Flatland, Flächenland. And it's a walk through Saxony-Anhalt, and it's a walk through smaller towns and villages. And it's mostly about shrinking places. It's mostly about derelict places, and she was criticized of putting a sort of negative image to the front with her publication. But my impression as the curator of a show on industrial photography is many of these places, especially those who were close to industrial complexes, would be very interesting to look into, and they sort of highlight a certain style and a certain sense of shrinking cities that are not actually commonplace when in urban dwellings that we were looking at the conference. So my whole point here is industrial peripheries in Saxony-Anhalt played a larger role when you talk about industry photography than the actually urban dwellings, the higher density urban spaces. And I think this gave you an idea of how I'm trying to think as a curator, and the rest I will talk about tomorrow. Thank you so much.